Oh, I don't know what to do. Oh, it's really bad. Hello everybody and welcome to a brand new tier list video where today, instead of talking about Mario games, I'm talking about Zelda games. It's very different today because Zelda is my home turf. It's one of my favorite franchises. You'd think that I would understand it really well and have a really solid opinion of it, and hopefully I do, but honestly, what I have for you today is a very large list of Zelda games, and you may be able to tell very quickly that a lot of these, there's a lot of games here, and there's not that many Zelda. I mean, there's a few Zelda games, but not this many. That's because this tier list is one of the few that I could find that A, has different versions of the same game, because there's Zelda 1, here's Zelda Ocarina of Time, and 3D, and Master Quest, which is very nice. But unfortunately, for some really weird reason, they've doubled up a lot of the game. In fact, all of them. There's 3 Wind Waker HDs for some reason, which is fairly wild. But what I've done, tiny bit of prep work, I've gone ahead and I have pulled them all together in a vague hope that I can make some sense of this and actually have a decent time ranking these games, because as it looked before, it was a bit hectic. I did think I'd have to go by pretty fast on this, but fortunately I don't, because I think I've sorted it. But anyway, I've learned a few things from the first video, mainly that it's a very good idea, as I've been told, to show the boundaries of the tier list and show how I'm ranking them. So what I'm going to do immediately is I'm going to put, should I do Wind Waker and Wind Waker HD? That's a good question. Basically it said, put your favourite game where it needs to go. I'm going to put Breath of the Wild there for now, because there are a few issues with Breath of the Wild, but mostly it's an incredibly solid Zelda game with insane levels of ambition that's matched really nicely throughout the game. You know, there's only mild nitpicks. The fact that weapon durability is annoying but necessary, because if you didn't have weapon durability, using weapons wouldn't be important, and you'd have all the weapons all the time. You'd have too many weapons. I'd rather have not enough weapons and have to get a little bit creative. I also kind of prefer dungeons to Divine Beasts, and the shrines themselves are detached from the rest of the game, and it feels a bit foreign to go down to a shrine and do some puzzling. So basically, they're small nitpicks, but otherwise, Breath of the Wild is an achievement within this franchise, and I very much can't wait for the next one. And to save on some time, I think I'm going to put Wind Waker HD and the original Wind Waker in S as well, just because I'm not entirely sure what my favourite Zelda game is at this point, but it's probably either Wind Waker or Breath of the Wild, and HD is an improvement on Wind Waker, which was already an incredible game, and to the point where it was and maybe still is my favourite Zelda game. HD just improves the graphics, plays around with some more annoying aspects of the game, like the Triforce Hunt. They're both really good. I'd highly recommend them, regardless of what console you have, you know, because neither of them on the Switch yet. And so with that out of the way, it kind of gives you an idea of where everything else falls, because it's going to be underneath that. All of these games, I'd say, in my opinion, are worse than what we already have. It's just a degree of how much they are worse. Which brings me to Phantom Hourglass. Now, the Phantom Hourglass was weird because it was a handheld Zelda game where the touchscreen on the DS was used to control everything, including Link's movement. So it was very gimmicky. It's very unique as a Zelda game goes, until at least you get to Spirit Tracks. I might rank both of them, actually. Depends where we go. I enjoyed it. Bit strange. They reuse a lot of ideas from Wind Waker. They kind of reuse some characters as well, but it is meant to be kind of a sequel to Wind Waker. But it feels nothing like Wind Waker in a lot of places. I enjoy it. I feel like putting it any higher than B might be a bit OTT though, which is actually where I'm going to put Spirit Tracks as well, because Spirit Tracks feels like a better game. It's more, the mechanics are more refined, but the overworld traversal is literally railroaded, because they introduce trains, which is a nice idea, but you have only a few set paths that you can go down, and I don't know, I after having a massive high of going through the water, through the sea of Phantom Hourglass, it feels very abrupt to go back to railroaded, you know, progression through a game. And, you know, I can see why they dropped it after a while, because they are very specific kind of Zelda games, and once you lose that handheld touchscreen, you can't really do it anymore. But I'm happy with them in B. I don't think I'll change that. Link Between Worlds is actually kind of wonderful. The only question I'm thinking is, how high would I put it? That's the tricky thing. Very creatively made game, because it is built on A Link to the Past's foundations, more so the game world than anything else. A lot of the mechanics are completely new, or at least tweaked massively, kind of beyond recognition, but they brought in some really good ideas. Like, rupees have incredible value now because you use them to rent and eventually buy a lot of items, so I can't really think of many problems I have with it. I haven't played it for a while, so maybe if I was to play it now, I'd find a lot of issues with it, but honestly, as a handheld Zelda goes, you can't really do better than that. Looking through it, you know, the Switch kind of throws a spanner in the works because it is technically a handheld as well, but this is, I think, one of the best, if not the best, handheld Zelda, and you know, I'd go into bat on that one. Makes it slightly awkward because I kind of have to put all the ones we've used down here, otherwise I'm going to get very confused when I come across Wind Waker HD, and we've already done it. The original Legend of Zelda. Now, I don't like this game. I like what it is. I like it as a concept. I like it as a technical exercise and an achievement of great magnitude. Playing it nowadays, though, you realize how many improvements future Zelda games have made, because it is rough in a lot of areas. It is, you can pick up and play it and enjoy yourself to an extent, but it is a bit unforgiving in a way that, like, not many, I mean, it's unforgiving in a very NES style, but if you look at a lot of the originators of big franchises like Super Mario Bros., the original Metroid, this feels a bit harsher. I don't know why, but you're kind of wandering around, discovering things for yourself, which is enjoyable in a way, but also can be frustrating because you die very quickly in this game. So I like it as a concept, but I just don't want to play it anymore. Is that okay? And bizarrely, I think I'm going to be in a position where Link's crossbow training goes above it. I don't know. It feels weird to say that. It feels really disturbing to say that. But Link's crossbow training doesn't try to be much of a Zelda game, or it doesn't try to be much of a game. It's a tech demo for the Zapper, where you use it and you think, hey, this is kind of cool. I wish more Wii games used this. Unfortunately, they didn't. But it's a nice idea. Very strange idea, because clearly, like, the Zapper isn't really a peripheral for the Wii, it's just a shell, like the wheel for Mario Kart and that sort of thing. So they weren't showing off any tech, they were just showing off that, you know, the pointer controls for the Wii are pretty nifty, and they are. It's just that I might put it in C. I don't want to put it in C because it doesn't try to be much. It just is what it is, and it's not pretending to be a crazy, massive Zelda game. It's just a stupid crossbow bunch of mini games, and it has some enjoyable things to it. I'm gonna put it in B. That feels weird. Is that weird? Are people gonna hate me? Oh, I feel like I might hate me. And now we have a triple threat of Ocarina of Time, because that's just, it looks like 6, because that's how this tier list has gone. Spirit Tracks is here. I'm gonna put you all the way down here, but we have 6 Zelda games, which is in fact 3 Zelda games, which is in fact 1 Zelda game, just slightly different versions of it. I'm going to put the original Ocarina of Time in S, for being a very solid game all throughout, and for a first attempt at a true 3D Zelda game, it's unbelievably solid. It's got bumps along the road, of course it has, but they are very nicely sold by Ocarina of Time 3D. You feel like I'm being very generous. You might be very generous in the S ranks, but we're starting strong on Zelda games at the moment. My only complaint comes with Master Quest. Now, Master Quest is very interesting because it only changes for dungeons. The problem is, a lot of the very intelligent dungeon design in Ocarina of Time isn't undone completely by Master Quest, but it's tweaked to a point where you lose a lot of the qualities. Now, for some dungeons, it's actually improved, because the Water Temple, it's not improved, really, in Master Quest, but you can, for example, you get the hook shot, not the hook shot, you get the long shot, basically in the second room in the Water Temple, which completely changes how that dungeon feels. And, you know, you still have to change the water levels and still have to go through the menu to get your iron boots out, but it's different enough for me to enjoy it. But a lot of the other dungeons feel very strange and back to front and kind of weird, and the dungeons of Ocarina of Time are a big strong point, and to change them is a bit of a strange thing to do. But it's not terrible, it's just, you know, not quite as wonderful as these two. Just have to gather up all the 4 swords. I think that's it. Is that it? Feels like that's it. There's a lot of 4 swords. It's again like a bit like Ocarina of Time, when we have 6 games, there's actually 3. But actually, they're all different games, just different I don't want to say different interpretations of the same game. They are very different, but they're all trying to be the same kind of game. I don't really love any of them. I want to start with Four Swords Anniversary, actually, is where I want to start, because I played this on the 3DS as part of their Ambassador program. I'm pretty sure you can't play it anymore, or you can't download it anymore. I'm pretty sure once the Ambassador program was dropped, it wasn't available. I don't think. I might be wrong in that regard, but it's a very short game. I think there must have been multiplayer. I forget what the Four Swords aspect was. I might need to look some of this up, because Four Sword games I'm a bit hazy on. But Four Swords Adventure is very short, but not bad. It's just a bit nothing for me, so I'm gonna put that there. I need to remember the difference between these two Four Swords, because honestly, I don't really remember. Ah, okay, I think I'm with you now. So, Four Swords Anniversary Edition, unsurprisingly, is actually anniversary of the GBA release of Four Swords, which is its own little multiplayer-only game, so basically, these are very similar to the point where I'm just gonna put them together, because honestly, they don't feel enough different. Four Swords Adventure, though, is actually pretty wonderful if you can get everyone together for it. That's the only thing that ruins it slightly, is that you have to have 4 people. They all have to have the right peripherals. I forget exactly how it works, but you gotta have at least 4 GBAs with the 4 link cables, and you have to have a GameCube disc for Four Swords Adventures, which is pretty rare and expensive nowadays, so I don't know, it's a fun game, but it's a little hard to achieve and bring together because of all that is required to do that. And again, technical exercise, fantastic, but in practice, it does fall down in a few very critical places, and you know, I just have to get so many things to enjoy it to its fullest extent, and that is an expensive experience. This is not Guitar Hero, this is The Legend of Goddamn Zelda. Link's Awakening, I have moved back and forth on this game a lot, and I presume the green thing next to it is the Switch remake from last year. Now, I really enjoyed the Switch remake. Would I say it's an S rank? I don't know, that is strange. I actually enjoyed a lot of the changes made in Link's Awakening on the Switch, which might lead me to put it above it. I just don't really know where. I want to put it in S rank. I don't want to overload S rank. Is that a bad thing if I overload S rank? Are people going to be annoyed with me if I like overinflate some of the qualities of Zelda games? But what I'm thinking is I put Link's Awakening Switch here. I put the GB, the Game Boy version, and I presume this also includes DX. I can't see DX anywhere, which is the Game Boy Color, the Game Boy Color version of Link's Awakening, which is basically the same, but they added a dungeon and they made everything in color, obviously. Just the dungeon reward has kind of changed a few things, but what I liked about Link's Awakening on the Switch is there were changes made to it that actually impacted the overall feel of the game. The music especially, because when you have chiptune background music, as it was with the original release, you're not really given much to play with musically, but they changed some of the dungeon themes to completely modify how they feel, and that is impressive from a well, I've got to stop saying from a technical standpoint. It's impressive that the changes were made without really affecting the overall feel in a negative way. It was only really for a positive experience, and graphically, like, the Game Boy game isn't terrible, but the Switch game has a very particular style that I really like, all the miniature ideas and the blur around the camera. It's enjoyable, a little difficult to get used to, but fun. At some point, there are dogs outside. We now have twice as many S-ranked Zelda games than we have in any other tier, and I feel like that might be a mistake. But luckily, we have the Oracle games, which I am quite a big fan of. I played them when I was a child. I had Ages, my sister had Seasons, we both really enjoyed it. Ages is more of a puzzle-based game. Seasons is more about kind of combat and being good at fighting enemies, I suppose. They're both really good. My only issue is that they were made by Capcom before they really hit their stride, which is where Minish Cap is. So there are some, not technical issues, but there's some, I suppose some gameplay oversights, because you have very few invincibility frames, so you can take a lot of damage very quickly in these games, which can make them very frustrating, especially Seasons, where you're up close and personal with more enemies, and the enemies themselves get harder faster, so They're not perfect. I think A rank is all they can really hope for, because they're great, you have a lot of fun with them. I wouldn't call them classics, though I would like to see them remade, because if we're doing Link's Awakening, why not just do Ages and Seasons as some kind of mega pack or something? I don't know, but, you know, if you haven't got anything else to do, you can give it a go. Minish Cap, can I make any arguments that this shouldn't be an S rank? I don't think I can. I actually don't think I can. It's a very, very, very solid handheld Zelda game that introduces new things like a button for rolling on a handheld, which is a strange thing, and a graphical style which is distinct enough from the Ages and Seasons kind of Link's Awakening style, more like a chibi Wind Waker style, effectively, while not being too intensive on the actual Game Boy Advance itself. It's a very Game Boy Advance Zelda game, so it doesn't rely on a lot of things that... I need to cough. It doesn't rely on a lot of things that the Game Boy games really brought into their own, and it does try to be its own original Game Boy Advance Zelda game. The only thing I'm surprised about is that they tried so hard to get this particular style, they never made any more games like it. So, if they tried so hard to get Link's Awakening style, they made Oracle of Ages and Seasons, but Minish Cap is its own little bubble, and very good value for it, and I don't know if that... I'm like overinflating my S rank, but honestly, there are so many solid games that are very different, but still incredibly solid. I'm wondering if I should all move everything down by one. Would that be a good idea? Nah, I don't really like it. Twilight Princess and Twilight Princess HD are shockingly similar games. I would say that of all the remakes, not much is really changed with HD. There's a few added things like amiibo support, and the amiibo dungeon is... I don't want to say fun, but the kind of challenge that you might be after perfecting your skills of the original Twilight Princess. And I do enjoy a lot of Twilight Princess. I just don't think it's much of a classic Zelda game. Like, I don't really know. I think the tone is all over the place, because it is trying to be this dark, mature Zelda game, but it kind of does it through overtly obvious means. Like Majora's Mask, we'll get there, does it by atmosphere and the factual things that are happening. It doesn't have to show you the darkness in the world. There is darkness in the world anyway, so I enjoy it, but I do feel like it's a bit ham-fisted in places, and the HD remake feels slightly unnecessary, because graphically it's just sharpened rather than anything massively overhauled, and if they did overhaul anything, they did a really good job of replicating the original style. The only real differences, other than, you know, gyroscopic aiming rather than a pointer aim, which is strange. I think that's what they did, I forget. But also, the amiibo dungeon was kind of... They did Miiverse stamps for a lot of chests. It was a strange game. Like, I can't split them too much for how much of an impact they are, so for that I'm going to put both of them in A, because again, good games. I don't love Twilight Princess. I love every game in S rank so far, and probably till the end of this list, but I don't love Twilight Princess, and I don't know if that's on me, or if it's on the game, or if it's because of what the game tried to do and didn't ultimately. I don't even know. Oh shit, everybody back the fuck off, because we have Triforce Heroes, a game that, until right now, I actually forgot about. I did not play for the longest time, because it came out at a time when we all wanted a new Zelda game, and this is what we got, and we better fucking be thankful for it. It is very strange. I mean, I say that a lot in these tier list videos. I've only made 2, but it's a strange game, because you can see what they were trying to do. It's the same idea as Four Swords, but, you know, with 3 players, because you got different color links, different kind of goofier story, but the charm isn't really there. I don't know if that's a characteristic of the time it came out, where it wasn't quite what people wanted. It is a good game, I just don't think it's quite really made with the focus that Zelda games usually are given, I suppose, but I don't know, it's an odd one. I don't think many people would be clamoring for this to be their favourite Zelda game. I feel like they'd be trying very hard to say that, and I like the idea. It's a creative idea, but honest to God, I have no strong desire to replay it, and I think that's a bad thing to be saying of a Zelda game. And now we arrive at a double feature of A Link to the Past. The only difference is that the second one on there, this one, is the original release on the SNES, And then we have this one, which is the GBA release, along with the original run of 4 Swords, which I'm going to ignore. I'm going to take 4 Swords out of it. I've already ranked it. It's not my favourite. It's kind of short and weird, but the actual Link to the Pasts, from what I can remember, are fairly identical. It's just basically a port. It's not even a remake. Should I look that up? I'm going to look it up right now. Yeah, very little has changed from the original 1991 release, which makes me think that the focus wasn't really to give it a new life on the GBA, more to give it life on the GBA. So the differences are very small, which means I'm basically going to have to rank these the same, regardless what I do. I really enjoy A Link to the Past. My only issue is, like, what can I think which will not put it in S? I don't want to put too many games in S, that's the thing. You can tell I like Zelda, can you tell? It's wonderful. It is wonderful. It's one of the best games on the SNES. It was one of the best Zelda games for a long time, and to think of it, there wasn't much between A Link to the Past and Ocarina of Time, except for the CDI games, which curiously aren't here, unfortunately. We have everything else. We have Hyrule fucking Warriors, but we haven't got the CDI games, and I really wanted to put something in D, but unfortunately we cannot do that. But I suppose it's nice that we have A Link to the Past, and I'm just going to put it in S, because I can't think of any reason why I shouldn't. Everything's solid, everything is really, really good for the console it's on. Like, storytelling is given, like, so much focus for an SNES game, so that's all I can really do. I don't think there's... should I put it in A? There's no real difference, it's just it's got 4 swords with it. I'm gonna put it in S. That feels better. I'm more comfortable with it being an S. Adventure of Link is a game that I also don't like, and the only thing I'm wondering now is I put it in C or D. Now, I'm gonna compare the original Legend of Zelda to the second game, not because there's a drastic change in gameplay style, more so because of what the game feels like. Because Adventure of Link has some RPG elements to it. You level up, you upgrade skills and all that, but it has, like, some platforming elements to it, which is strange for a Zelda game to have a focus on platforming for a start, but also, like, it's very difficult. And the original was difficult, but it was difficult in a lack of knowledge kind of way, in a way that you'd get lost and you'd have to, you know, it was confusing, I suppose, the first game. The second game is just a bit dickish in a lot of ways. Like, the death mounting section, I still think is just unbelievably stupid, and all I'm thinking is, can I honestly say that I enjoy playing Adventure of Link anymore? Because you can get good at it. It's not that difficult to get good at it, but does it feel good to be good at it? If you know what I mean by that? I'm going to say no, and because I feel like I have to put something in D as potentially the worst Zelda game, I kind of have to do that, because, like, if you were to tell me which of these games would I least like to play right now, it's going to have to be that. And now somehow, my reward for putting a game in a D rank for a change, I have to decipher the difference, the tangible difference between Hyrule Warriors for Switch, and Hyrule Warriors for the 3DS. Now, that to me should be easier than it sounds, because immediately I'm going to do this, and then I forget we have 2. That almost really confused me. Then this, and then this, for very key reasons. Hyrule Warriors, when it first came out, was a very fun game, but rough around the edges and a little bit lacking in, I don't want to say focus because that sounds really shit, but it was lacking in any real drive to play it a lot. There was a lot of content in the game, you can't say that. You can't say there wasn't a lot of content in the game because it released with a ton and then got DLC, which is what Legends did really well, but what Legends didn't do so well was hardware, because there's so much happening on screen that it lags the shit out of the 3DS. It lagged the Wii U, to be fair, and the Wii U had, like, multiplayer, local multiplayer, but you put it on the screen and it would lag like hell. Which is why, when you get to the Definitive Edition, not only does it not lag as much, it also has all the DLC, so you haven't got to sacrifice the likes of graphics or performance in order to play with every single character. It still has a few issues, but other than, you know, performance issues, it is a very fun Zelda game. It doesn't feel anything like Zelda. It's in fact probably the least Zelda-like game on here, except maybe Crossbow Training, but it is enjoyable in short bursts, I suppose. And now we come to maybe the most interesting placements in this video, because we have Majora's Mask and Majora's Mask 3D. Majora's Mask, for those of you unaware, is a very, very weird Zelda game. Very weird. Deliberately weird, if accidentally weird, because of the short time frame. Because of the short time frame between Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, they kind of had to squirt out this Zelda game in record timing and do some very strange design decisions along the way, but it gave it a character that even Ocarina of Time is lacking. It's a bit too perfect, Ocarina of Time. Majora's Mask is disturbing and weird and unusual, and you have some weird dreams about it. I know I did, but it is very, very cool as a Zelda game, because it's about the end of the fucking world. You have people dealing with different stages of grief in real time across a 3-day time limit, and that is honestly something that we will probably never see in a Zelda game, in a video game again. For that, it has to go in S. Now, we also have the 3DS remake. Unlike Ocarina of Time, which was improved a lot by its 3DS remake and given like a new interface and a lot of design tweaks that were problems in the original release, Majora's Mask 3D, it makes some changes that I would describe as stupid and unnecessary. The first one I can remember, without going on for too long, the bosses go from being this very open experience where you can defeat them in lots of different ways to being really fucking obvious, because what you have to do is you have to hurt them, then they spit out some kind of eye weak spot and you slash that and they die. It's a little stupid and very, very dumb, but it's made that way because a lot of people complain that Majora's Mask was too difficult, and it's not too difficult. You just have to kind of get used to it and understand that it's not going to hold your hand as much as other Zelda games. Majora's Mask 3D is one of the most hand-holdy Zelda games you're ever going to have, and I'm just wondering, should I put it in D? Is it that much worse than the original game? I want to say it isn't, but I feel like because it has the perfect role model to look at for ideas and for concepts, it should be better, and the fact that it isn't is honestly really, really bad. And now we have the final game, technically, based on how we've ordered the games on here. It's slightly confusing. We still have 2 Wind Waker HDs. I kind of love this tier list, I'll be honest. But we have the final game, and honestly the game which, if I argued for long enough, I could put in any goddamn tier in this entire list, because Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword is a game that takes me back to a time when I used to mention it in every video as a joke and made a let's play of it, sort of as a joke, made a review of it, sort of not as a joke, and honestly I flip-flopped all over the place with this game. It's got some wonderful parts to it. It's a wonderful game in certain places where the characters are really solid. I gotta stop saying solid. The characters are really amazing. Like, Zelda is the best you've ever seen. Link has personality, which is matched with his general background. Groose is just the best thing ever. Girahim is just one of the best Zelda villains, for just stealing every scene that he's in, and for being larger than life and just wonderful everything. My issues don't actually come from the motion controls, surprisingly. I did a let's play of it. You can find it somewhere on the internet, and I had very few issues with the motion controls. They weren't unresponsive, they're just a bit strange. The only thing I would say against them is that they can be a bit overbearing. A lot of the game can feel like they're shoving the motion controls down your throat. Specifically the Wii Motion Plus controls, where, you know, it's supposed to be one-to-one sword swinging, kind of isn't really that, but it is functional for what it is, and, you know, some of the enemies do goofy things with their weapons as well. My main issue is that the story is dog shit. The story is genuinely terrible, because it asks Link to do things in a way where he seems like an idiot, where it's like, hey, do you want to go to this place and do this? Oh, cool. Go to this thing. Go to this thing. He has no control. There's no drive to do anything. You're just told to go places. My summary of Skyward Sword has always been that it has amazing characters in a terrible story. And that isn't me saying that the characters themselves are terrible. It's just they're asked to be in a story that doesn't get the most out of them. And I don't know where to put it, because, you know, I enjoy things like the presentation, which we put it up here, maybe here, but honestly, I feel like the best place is maybe B. It's fun, but very flawed in lots of places, and I would love to see them change a lot of things in a remake or a re-release that makes it less stupid, because as it is, it's just got characters going from A to B. That was fun. Let's go from C to D, and then E to F, and it just kind of gets a bit annoying after a while, but I feel like B is as low as I can take it without annoying a lot of people. So yeah, there's my very complicated Legend of Zelda tier list. We have many games that I feel like we've done some justice to. We have maybe disgraced a few, maybe made some people very mad at me, but I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you're looking at this thinking, hey, what the fuck's going on with RabbidLuigi? I could do better than that. Please tell me where you could do better and what your personal S to D tier list of all the different types of Zelda games are. Still really annoyed that the CDI games aren't here, because then at least I'd have something I can put in the low rank that I wouldn't feel nervous about. But anyway, thank you all for watching. Let me know what you would like me to rank in the next video, and I will see you all in whatever I make next. Thanks for watching. Goodbye!